Hi, my name is Reginald Cooley Sr., and I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and from a big family. Um, from there, I began raised in Detroit, Michigan, and moved to Ohio and joined the military from there. It was in that military lifestyle that I began to explore a lot of things, partying and drinking a lot of alcohol. I drank like a sailor, cussed like one too. I would go to church. My mom would bring the church bus and we'd get on. And so I knew of God, but really didn't know God. And so, as I joined the military and, I had found a wife there. We had a child, Reggie Jr. And, things didn't work out with us. And so we parted ways. But I had never had my father in my life. So one of the things that I vowed during that time was to be in Reggie's life, to be a father, to not be the father that I never had.
My name is Reggie Cooley Jr., and I was born in Wichita, Kansas. And growing up, I didn't realize that I was actually growing up with a dysfunctional family. I don't even have a single memory of my mom and dad being together. They had met in Japan and gotten married, but they had separated. They had divorced when I was really young. So growing up, I had two of everything. I would have two Christmases and two birthdays, two Thanksgivings, and to me that was normal.
And I remember one day that I told him I was going to come pick him up. I was at home doing coke, and crack, and meth, and I began to hear voices. I began to hear that, they were coming in. I began to hear knocks on the door, and I got scared. And I heard voices to say, flush it. And so I ran to the toilet to begin to flush the coke, the crack, and the meth. But after that moment, something said, don't flush it, to eat it. And as I began to eat the coke, the crack, and the meth, and I washed it down with some alcohol, I began to feel my heart, and every part of my body began to convulse. My heart was beating so hard that I knew that I was about to die.
And then at the age of 16, I remember there's this phone call that we received. I was having dinner with my mom and with my grandparents. And my dad, he was back at our house. He was renting a room with my grandparents. And he called us. He called me, and all I remember is him breathing. He didn't say a word. He was just breathing. And I didn't know what had happened, but fear had gripped me, and I thought he was gonna die. I had no idea what was happening, what was taking place. And I told my grandma, I said, we have to go home. Wait, something happened. He's not talking. All he's doing is breathing. And she starts to say different things, saying, well, maybe he got into my medicine cabinet. Maybe he's taking my pills. But I didn't know what he was doing. I had no idea what was going on in his life. And I remember pulling up to the house, and he's on the stretcher already, and the ambulance is putting him into the truck. And I see him taken away. And my family, we get in the car, we follow the ambulance, we go to the hospital, and he gets checked in. They do all the paperwork, and they bring us back into the room. And I remember him being all connected to the IV, and he has different cords and tubes throughout his body. And we're just looking at each other. And he tells me that he loves me. And I remember looking at him saying, no, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be doing these things. You wouldn't be in the situation that you're in. Whatever he was doing, he ended up on his deathbed. And he had to change. I knew that he had to change his life. And after that, I remember he got a flyer to our church, Victory Outreach, and he went and he had a backpack. I remember to this day he had a backpack, and he went to go check it out. He said, I'm going to see what this Victory Home and this men's recovery home was all about. He checked it out. He liked what he saw, and he checked in. And he was there for a year. He graduated our men's Victory Home. And from there, I started to see that God was doing a work within his life.
I came that Sunday morning, September the 20th, 2009. I'll never forget that moment. And I gave my life to the Lord. And as I gave my life to the Lord and went into our men's recovery home, God began to show me things. He began to restore me. He began to show me how to read his word, and I began to develop a relationship with him. It was at that time I desired to be a father. He would begin to restore my desire to be a father to Reggie Jr. and to be a father to my other son, Miles.
I gave up college. I canceled my classes for my sophomore year. I canceled my dorm, and I made the decision to go to the West Coast Urban Training Center, and it was the best decision I could have made. I got trained, I got equipped, and I came back home. I got moved into the discipleship home, and I started to build right here in our church. And I found my wife in our church, and now we've been married for 4 years. We have 3 sons. We have an angel baby, we have Micah, and we have Malachi. And I'm grateful for what God did within my life, but it was only because of my father's decision, of his leading and his choice and his faithfulness to God and to the ministry that I'm able to stand here today and be that father that God's called me to be.
And even in the midst of that, discipling and mentoring him along the way, my son Miles began to come. And it was beautiful because the whole time I've been praying, God was showing me that he was going to bring him. He gave me a scripture. He said that I will gather your seed from the east and you from the west. And at the time, Miles was in Iowa and I was in Vegas. And so it was lining up. And when he reached out to me and said that he wanted to know me, I knew that God was faithful to his promises. And he came out to Vegas and began to live here, and we began to know each other. And he developed a desire, because he was right there, began to go down that path of drug use. His mother reached out to me and told me that he was in college there in Iowa. She said he was doing hard drugs. And I said, well, what is those hard drugs to you? What does that mean? And he was doing coke. And I told her, well, you need to tell him the truth, because it's in that truth that will set him free. And when she told him the truth, and he came out here and he saw, the relationship, and he saw how God changed my life from being addicted to drugs and that lifestyle to being a man of God. He desired that. He wanted that. He wanted that direction and hope in his life. And he saw the relationship that me and Reggie, have right now, and he desired that. And so I wasn't, forcing him to do anything about going to church or serving God or even serving in the military. But as he was out here, he saw my pictures on the wall. He saw my sister's pictures on the wall because she was in the Navy. Then he saw my niece, she's in the Army. And he looked at that wall and he said, my picture's going to be up there one day. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm joining the service. And so he had joined the military. He joined the Marines, and he's right there right now in California and serving in the Marines. And we're building a relationship, and he calls, and now he's understanding what it's going to take to be a man of God, and we're sharing scriptures and we're praying, and I know that God is faithful. And so what he's done in my life have taken me from a place of fatherlessness to a place of being a father, of knowing what it's going to take to be a father, his exampleship, the relationship. And so I thank God for everything that he's done, of restoring my relationship with Reggie Jr., restoring my relationship with Miles, bringing me a beautiful wife. And get this, not only that, my wife, Hershana, we just had a baby in November, baby boy number 3, and his name is Moses. And so God is just doing awesome things and entrusting me with fatherhood, entrusting me with teaching my boys how to be a father. So I thank God, and I pray that you are blessed by this testimony of what God is able to do despite the circumstances of being from a fatherless home. God is still able to raise up men to be fathers.